All right. So here is the question that is quietly eating people alive right now. Should you run your AI models locally on your own hardware? Should you just pay the cloud? Or should you do the thing that everybody says they're doing, but nobody actually architects on purpose? Which is both. And I'm going to tell you the answer up front because I hate podcasts that make you wait 20 minutes for the punchline. The answer is both. It's hybrid. But the only way hybrid isn't a mess is if you actually understand what each side is good at. So let's do that. Buckle up. Yeah, let's start with local. Local means the weights are sitting on your disk, on your machine, and the math is happening on your silicon. That's it. Nothing leaves the building. You've got tools like Allama, LM Studio, Llama.cpp, VLLM if you're feeling spicy, and you've got open weight models, Llama, Mistral, Quen, DeepSeek, the GPT-OSS models. And here's the first thing people get wrong. They hear open and they think free with a bow on it. Nope. Here's the actual constraint, and it's a physical one. It's memory. A model is basically a giant pile of numbers, and every one of those numbers has to physically fit in memory before it can do anything for you. Rough rule of thumb, and I mean rough, at 4-bit quantization, which is the compression everybody uses, you're looking at roughly half a gigabyte of memory per billion parameters plus overhead for context. So an 8 billion parameter model fits on a decent laptop, comfortable. A 70 billion parameter model, now you're talking 40-ish gigs, and suddenly you need a serious GPU or a Mac with a lot of unified memory, or 2 GPUs and a prayer. And a truly enormous frontier scale model, you're not running that in your home office next to the cat. You're just not. Physics said no. And there's a second thing nobody tells you. Speed on local isn't mostly about how fast your chip does math. When the model is generating tokens one at a time, it has to read the entire model out of memory for every single token. Every token. So your tokens per second is basically a hostage to your memory bandwidth, not your raw compute. Which is why somebody with a fancy new chip gets mediocre generation speed and is standing there like, but the benchmarks, yeah, the benchmarks were measuring a different bottleneck, my guy. Make sense? Okay, so why would you ever do this to yourself? 3 reasons, and they're good reasons. 1, privacy, real privacy. Not policy privacy, not we pinky swear we don't train on your data privacy. Physics privacy. The packet never left. If you're a lawyer, a therapist, a hospital, a defense contractor, a company sitting on somebody else's regulated data, that distinction is not academic. That distinction is your license. 2, predictable cost. You buy the box, you pay the electric bill, and then you can run that thing until it glows and your bill doesn't move. No metering, no, oh, our intern wrote a loop. Nobody has ever gotten a surprise 5-figure invoice from a computer that's already sitting on their desk. 3, and this is the one that's wildly underrated, version stability. Weights on your disk do not change, ever. The cloud model you built your whole workflow on, that thing can get updated, retuned, deprecated, sunset, and quietly moved under your feet while you're asleep. And then one morning, your prompts that worked beautifully for 6 months just don't. And you spend a week playing detective on a crime scene where the victim is your own output quality. Local models don't do that. Local models are frozen in amber. If it worked in March, it works in March forever. Now, let me kill a myth while I'm here because it's a dangerous one. Local does not automatically mean secure. I want to say that again. Local is not automatically secure. You still own the patching. You still own the access control. And there have been plenty of people who spun up a local model server, opened a port so they could hit it from their phone, and left it sitting there on the open internet with no authentication whatsoever, which is a very expensive way to donate a GPU to strangers. Running it yourself means the security is your job now. It's not a feature. It's a chore you inherited. Congratulations. Okay, cloud. What is cloud actually giving you? Honestly, the good stuff. The frontier models live in the cloud. Full stop. The hardest reasoning, the longest context windows, the best multimodal, the best agentic tool use that lives on somebody else's very expensive metal, and it is very good. You get elastic scale, which matters more than people think, because your one GPU at home serves basically one conversation at a time nicely. 2 people, fine. 20 people at once, your beautiful local rig turns into a queue at the DMV. Cloud absorbs that without blinking. Zero upfront capital, no hardware to buy, nothing to depreciate, nothing to explain to your spouse. But here's your bill. And I mean that literally and figuratively. You are paying per token forever. You are shipping your data to a third party, which means you now live inside somebody else's terms of service, and those terms vary. Business and enterprise tiers generally do not train on your data by default, and you can often get zero retention arrangements. But consumer tiers can be different, and the details actually matter. Read the contract. Yes, really, read it. I know. I'm sorry. And then there's vendor dependence, which is the quiet one. Rate limits, outages, price changes, model deprecations, policy shifts. Your entire product becomes a tenant in a building you do not own, and the landlord can renovate whenever they feel like it. Oh, and licensing, quick honest word, because people bluff about this constantly. Open weights is not the same thing as open source. Some of these models are genuinely Apache 2.0 or MIT, do whatever you want, go nuts. Others come with custom community licenses that have real conditions attached about commercial use at scale. So if you're building a business on top of a downloaded model, go read the license file. Don't take my word for it. Don't take a Reddit comments word for it. It takes 11 minutes and it can save you from a conversation with a lawyer that starts with the word so. All right, so how do you actually build this? Here's the hybrid architecture. And here's how you decide for real. Rule 1, route by sensitivity, not by vibes. Sensitive data stays local. Everything else can go up. Simple. Rule 2, and this is my favorite trick, use a small local model as the bouncer at the door. Before anything gets shipped to a cloud provider, a local model reads it, finds the names, the account numbers, the medical details, the client identifiers, and strips them or swaps them for placeholders. Then the cloud model does the heavy thinking on the sanitized version, and you swap the real details back in locally on the way out. The frontier model gets to be brilliant. It just never learns anybody's actual social security number. That's a redaction gateway, and it is beautiful. Rule 3, route by difficulty. The vast majority of what you do with AI all day is boring. Classify this, extract these fields, tag that, embed this document, draft a rough first pass. A small local model crushes that work and costs you nothing per call. Save the expensive frontier model for what it's actually for. The gnarly reasoning, the giant document, the image, the multi-step agent, cheap and local for the routine. Escalate to cloud when it's genuinely hard. That's it. That's the whole pattern. It's a triage nurse. Rule 4, build behind an abstraction. Most of these things speak a compatible API shape now. So if you write your code so the model is a swappable component and not something welded into every corner of your app, then the day the price changes or the model gets deprecated or you decide to bring something in-house, it's an afternoon, not a rewrite. And rule 5, which nobody wants to hear, you need evals. You need a set of your own real tasks with known good answers. So when you ask, is the small local model good enough for this job? You have an answer instead of a feeling. Because good enough is not a personality trait. It's a measurement. And without it, you're just doing astrology with GPUs. So bottom line, right? Local for the sensitive, the routine, and the high volume. Cloud for the hard, the huge, and the occasional, and a thin layer of your own logic in the middle deciding who gets what. That's not a compromise. That's the actual correct architecture, and it's also conveniently the cheapest one. Go buy a used GPU. Tell them the podcast sent you. I'll see everybody next episode.